excited about today, as I always am on Tuesday evenings when we interrupt your life and bring you really great stuff with the red light and our spotlight on our red champions. It is I, Colette Portis, Master Business Coach, COO, and co-founder of Red Development Group, and my amazing partner,
Reggie Kemp.
Yes,
Reggie Kemp. Yes.
Hello,
yes.
He says that, and I'm all, yeah, it's me. And we have one of the most phenomenal guests, one of my partners in crime, with us today. And so I will introduce him in just a moment, but I want to welcome you to the Red Light, which is hosted by Red Development Group. And it is the place that we have the amazing opportunity to shine the spotlight or the red light on those companies, organizations, and individuals who are our champions. They support us. They help us to help you grow and be the absolute best you, build the most amazing and sustainable businesses. That is what they do. And so we want you to know how amazing they are. And we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to connect with them just like we do. So thank you for joining us for this ride. We promise you that you will leave here knowing something that you didn't know before you got here. So,
Colette, I think Ryan is ready.
I think Ryan's ready too. But before we get Ryan going, because he's bubbling over there, he wants to say, before we get Ryan going, I want you to click that start watch party button under the video that you're watching, because we want to make sure that you share this amazing stuff with all of the people you're connected with. So, without further ado, our guest today is Mr. Ryan Benson, who is a co-founder of 1812 Solutions.
Yes.
And Mr. Ryan is a behaviorist. Ooh, what is that?
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Yes. So, Ryan, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about who Ryan is.
Well, first of all, I feel honored that I'm a partner in crime, by the way. So thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Who I am? Is that, or do you want to know who 1812 is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both.
Right.
Both.
You know what? That's funny. You know what? I'm just a guy that has a passion and a love for people. I believe wholeheartedly that everyone has a genius, that you are born with a genius, that you're born with a purpose. It's taken me a while to figure out my genius and purpose, but I'm here to tell you that who I am is and what my genius is all tied together.
Yes.
And what I do is I look into the heart of who you are. I see your potential that you cannot see, and I pull it up to the surface and I equip you with what to do with it. And that is what I am here on this planet to do.
Right.
Man, that is good. That's almost as good as chocolate ice cream. Inside joke, guys. Inside joke.
Right.
I'll do just about anything for some chocolate ice cream. Okay?
So after this, if you really love this interview with Ryan, connect with him on LinkedIn and get his address so you can send him chocolate ice cream. He'll appreciate
Yes. I like Rocky Road. I like Dutch chocolate. I like dark chocolate.
Now that we've got past that.
Well, maybe, yes.
Yeah, maybe.
It's all yours, Reggie.
Well, Colette, I don't have up my sheet. However, I'm going to move forward anyway. So tell me, to me, I think this is a critical time for what you do, because a lot of times people don't understand really who they are, or they take their greatness for granted because it's something that they do naturally. So share more about why you chose this path and the difference that it makes in somebody's life.
Well, I mean, why I chose it is, man, really, really, I mean, a personal experience. I grew up I had a home life and that was really difficult. And I heard consistently a message through my childhood that you're not worth it.
Mm.
You're not worthy. You know, there's a lot of worthlessness being thrown at me. And so these messages, you know, were the attempt from these messages were to define me falsely, incorrectly. And so I fought. I mean, I fought through my childhood and my teenage years and my young adulthood to find really that worth and that value. And through that process of establishing that, I fell in love with people first and foremost. And I fell in love with the process of not knowing who you really are, not having the self-awareness to tap into your gifts and your skills, you know, consciously. Going from that point to, I have these things, I'm equipped with these things now. I have worth and confidence, and I see value in myself to take that step forward out of those false messages. And so my love for doing this came from pain and struggle and a want for really no one else to have to go through that as well.
So what was your push through though? I mean, because a lot of people are probably experiencing something similar. So what was your push through?
You know, my push through was really kind of, and we kind of touched on this earlier before we got live, with a decision I made in high school where I knew logically what I was going to do with my life per se. Like I knew I was going to be speaking. I knew I was going to be teaching. I knew that was just hardwired into me. But I could not stand in front of more than two people without, you know, getting nauseous and cold hands and, you know, sweating and just wanting to double over and like get me out of this situation. And I don't know the only way I can describe it is there was a direct correlation with my severe stage fright and my lack of ability to believe in myself.
Oh, that's good. So let me ask this, and I'm going to come back. I have another question about that, but I want to ask this question first so they understand why I'm asking you this particular question. So tell me, 1812. 1812 Solutions does mindset coaching. So tell us what is that? What is mindset coaching? So
maybe the term that's a little bit easier to kind of correlate with would be emotional intelligence. You know, it's mindset coaching with this emotional intelligence discipline. And what we really do is we take, you know, whether it's an individual or a corporation or organization, it doesn't matter how many or how few, but we take an individual and we walk them, we guide them through the process of acquiring self-awareness. Going back to the name of our company, 1812 Solutions, it comes from Matthew 18:12 that talks about the shepherd leaving the 99 to go find the one lost. So, so we want to equip people with self-awareness and mindfulness and vulnerability, empathy, availability. You know, we want to bring them to a place where they can be present and be aware, and that they can actually proactively make decisions and communicate. You know, so mindset coaching is really kind of drilling down through all the rubble and the trash and the mess that you've allowed to define yourself, and find really that true diamond that we can pull up to the surface and say, let's do something with that.
So really, for you as the shepherd of your own life, leave everything else and go find the one, which is you, the individual, and nurture that, and then bring it back to the 99. Like it.
Think about it. Once you find that one lost, you know, and you bring them into the collective, the 99 that's healthy, that's tempering each other, that's sharpening each other, that's keeping accountability with one another, and you bring them back in. Now they have an opportunity to not just have access to their gifting, but to fast forward that development in a safe, you know, place, in a safe area. And that's kind of where we talk about shepherding, guide people, walk with them through that, so they're not alone through these decision-making, you know, processes, you know, because it's difficult. It's difficult to acquire self-awareness.
So Ryan, right now we are in this situation where we've been, in quarantine. We've been on what I call the global timeout, and
Yeah.
I don't know, we did something, so everybody got called into timeout.
Right. I never
It
did
wasn't
good
me.
at timeout.
I just got caught up in it. So with that, you talked about how the messaging you received when you were younger was not the best messaging, but however, you came to be who you are. And then you talked about iron sharpening iron and leaving the 99 to go find the one. So talk a little bit about, because oftentimes when we grow up impoverished, or we have a really what we consider unhealthy childhood or life experience, we tend to hang on to that as the bad thing. But what I think we can agree on is it's all about perspective, and perspective helps you to determine whether it's a rock that you keep whether it's just a rock that your life keeps rubbing against, or whether it's the rock that sharpens the knife kind of situation.
Yes.
So talk about coming from that place, and how did that sharpen you and get you ready for today, even though it was quote unquote, the bad situation, and we don't recommend it for anybody, but what did it do to sharpen you and make you who you are now?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and let me add a couple of details for some clarification. The rough childhood I had, why it was so difficult. I had a stepfather that was abusive, and from the time I was 4 until 17, 18 years old, I went through that process, of just navigating those difficult waters, and that emotional abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse. The spiritual abuse, really, to be quite frank, everything but sexual abuse. That was a heavy weight. It was like a shell that he imposed onto me. And the only way I broke through that was truly 2 things: taking ownership over what I logically knew I was made to do in my life. And that was to serve, to serve people, to pour myself into people. The second thing was a committed decision. It was just that, a committed decision to take those action steps moving forward, regardless of how difficult it was, regardless of, the struggle, or how slow it was, or how fast it was, and so forth. And so making that committed decision that what I was going through wasn't going to define the rest of my life helped me to break through. It also separated me out of the survival mode and the panic of it, because I had vision, I had goal, I had a purpose. I was chasing after now, and the longer I separated myself from it with that perspective, to your point, Colette, the more I got to see that what I went through was not the negative that I always thought it was, like you're talking about. It was the tool, it was the positive, it was my ability to observe body language, to observe micro expressions, to observe human behavior comes from, to be quite frank, comes from a fear to avoid my stepfather. Listening to his cough, listening to his steps, listening to his, watching him, doing all of that. That's where my skills that I have now, that's where it began.
Yeah.
So I am thankful for that process.
What I think is so phenomenal about it, so what you all don't know that we do know, is that Ryan also has a dog training business, which what I'm hearing you say, I'm absolutely sure you use every day to train dogs, because you understand how to look at behavior.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
And let me add something to that. Dogs and monkeys are the 2 animals in the world that most accurately mimic human behavior.
Really?
So when you have a misbehaving dog, you need to look at yourself. You need to start looking into your own self-awareness, your own mindfulness.
Because dogs, like children, are only doing what they're mimicking the behavior.
Adults.
Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
that's good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That means when I do get my dog, it's going to be a really good dog.
Yes, there you go. Also very driven, strong-willed, stubborn,
Right.
intellectual.
Right. Right.
Oh man,
Ryan,
that's so too.
Ryan, that would be my bulldog for sure. All of that.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm sending
yes.
him over to you.
Come
New
on,
mindset
come
needed.
on.
Yes. Yes.
But that's, and that's to that point, I'm not a dog trainer. That's not
Right.
what I am. The business is not built on training dogs. I tell my clients, you give me a room full of 30 misbehaved dogs without their owners, I need 1 hour and I will have them following my leadership. But you give me those dogs, that same room and their owners, I need a month.
Oh.
So it's not training people either. That's not what I do. I get into their lives. I gather all the contextual information that's going on in their routines and their schedules and their beliefs and their personalities and the way they communicate. And I look for the opportunities for balance and harmony to be established.
Mm-hmm. So, Ryan, you're talking about mindset, but then the whole world is focused on personal development. So share with me what you think the difference is between those.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a lot of personal development out there right now that's functional personal development. Mm-hmm. It's very action oriented. It's very linear in its way of thinking and its output, and it's wonderful and it's great. But, the human condition says that we're all very different, and we all respond. We have different motivations and dreams and desires and, all that kind of stuff. So personal development as a function can be doing the things that you're supposed to do, but that's external.
Right.
So let me just put it this way. The first time I disciplined my son, okay, and it was a spank. I spanked him, and the first time I did that, I had a flashback to when I was a child, and I stopped immediately. I walked away. I went to my wife and I said, please go talk to Noah, because I had enough awareness in that moment to know that, enough mindfulness to know that I could not continue my actions without my own personal development or my own self-awareness development, not personal development, my own self-awareness. And so that's really when I started to really dig into, my son's 13 now. So I was really starting to dig into all of that. And so what I had to realize was, just like I talked about dogs mimicking human behavior,
right?
Our parental behavior and our parental teaching trickles down into us.
That's right.
I had to break that off before I could be the father that I wanted to be.
So Ryan, what I think I heard you say is that personal development can be external and not as permanent as a mindset change, shift, renewal.
Yes. So kind of in 1812's formula, we do this internal development in your self-awareness and your mindfulness. Okay. Mindfulness is starting to now transition out of your head and into your actions, and so as you go into that, you go from the self-awareness into the mindfulness. Now you're making yourself vulnerable and available for other. And that's beginning the external processing of that. Now your actions are showing what's happening inside, because your actions always show what's happening inside, always. And so you want to make sure they're congruent with the message you want to communicate.
Yeah. So Ryan, why is this mindset coaching, emotional intelligence, why is that even important? Like, nobody wants to do this stuff. This is girly stuff. Nobody wants to do. Like, why is it important that we actually do this work?
I'll use this example. My wife and I have been married for going on 18 years. And we're very, very different people, as most couples can say. Okay. We are very different in the sense that down to how we connect, how our brains connect to our own definition of survival is different. Okay. And this is part of what we teach in 1812. The way my brain says that, hey, we are surviving and we are good to go is through my person. It's through my relationship with my wife, through my relationship, as healthy as that is. If it's not healthy, I struggle. I struggle. Well, her brain's definition of survival is not the same as mine. It's how she connects with her circle, her friends, her group, and then she connects with me. Do you know how many years I resented that?
Wow. That's good stuff, Ryan. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Just before we started this interview, I was on a phone call with a family member of mine, and we were talking about they're going to be getting married soon, and we were just, initially I got a text message that says, should we spend this kind of money on the marriage, on the wedding? And the conversation I ended up saying, it's not about the amount of money you spend on the wedding. If you spent every single dime that you had on the wedding, what's important is that you did it with your best friend and somebody you want to live your life with for the rest of your life. And you can put up with their nonsense and they can put up with your nonsense. That's what's important. About the amount of money is not the right question. But having that conversation and talking about how you connect with people and how you connect with others and what is your definition of connection and what's the hierarchy or the level of priorities of your connections and making sure that your mate gets it.
Yes.
Right.
So as soon as I realized that, as soon as I discovered that about my wife and I, it gave me freedom to not be offended.
Right.
To not be insulted. When she connects to her definition of survival and it's different from mine, I just gotta wait. I just gotta be patient. Just be present, and we do eventually connect with one another. We weave into each other because obviously we're almost 18 years married, so we love each other, and it's been difficult and it's been rocky, but that's the second I realized, oh man, we are different in the fundamental way that I am hardwired. I was no longer offended. I was no longer insulted. And therefore my frustrations and my temper tantrums were no longer present.
Right. So, with that being said, how can entrepreneurs really benefit from that? Because, when you go into entrepreneurship, you have rolled out what you know, but you don't know everything. You don't know every aspect of business. And then sometimes people struggle or get caught because they don't want to further themselves or shift their mindset so that they can bring on new people that are possibly smarter than them and, do a whole lot of different things. But how does this therapy help entrepreneurs?
Oh, man, it flushes out all the stuff that you've thought and that you've been doing that is the hamster in the wheel. It's not productive.
Right.
It flushes out the toxic thoughts, the toxic habits, the toxic actions that prevent you from reaching your business goals.
Right.
I mean, let's think about it this way. If I was not in 1812 Solutions, I know I have that self-awareness that I'm not administratively organized.
Right. Newsflash.
I think everyone watching this can say, yeah, he's probably not. I'm not organized like that, But my business partner, oh my gosh, is.
Yes.
So having the self-awareness to say, I'm good at this over here. Sorry, my wife is calling me. 1 second.
You're getting excited.
I know, right? So to be able to say that my genius is to shepherd you emotionally through your thought process and how you view yourself, to be able to take ownership over that, and then to look at my business partner and say that my genius is not what your genius is, but your genius is not what my genius is. And then you have the lenses to be able to pull people into your network. Right. Oh, Colette over there. Oh my gosh. I do not have an ounce of what she's got. I need it. Right. Reggie, oh my gosh, yes, she's like echoing what Brad echoes, and I need that, more of that, then you become stronger, then you become, you have more resources, and then you can do more.
Right. So, it's amazing, and it's the reason why we have Red Champions, because
I know.
Seriously, because part of our work at Red Development Group is making sure that our business owners show up whole and ready to go, but can answer what are my deficits, and then seek to first define what they need to fill that deficit, and then go out and find that thing. And I think a lot of times in business, when we're in business by ourselves, we don't do that work. And so our businesses suffer. And when we're in partnerships, our partnerships, like our marriages, end because we didn't do that work either.
Right.
And so one of the things that we as a team, Reggie and I, have been consistently working on, we actually have a meeting tomorrow just for Reggie and I to talk about what do we need, what are the things that these individuals or tools or whatever need to have, so we can go find what we need, so we can consistently and continuously grow. And so I see what you and Brad being the other half of the 1812 team, do as exactly that for the person in the business. Because like business period is like a marriage. You got to be married to it, and it doesn't do well when you neglect it. It doesn't like it at all, right?
No,
and
so it's very needy.
Oh my God, it's very needy. But you have to show up for it, and you have to show up being the best you can for it, because otherwise it's like a dog or a child. It mimics your brokenness.
Right. You know, and another thing about mindset and entrepreneurialism, you have to be ready to change, be very fluid. You know, technology has come into our lives, and technology changes every 45 days. What are we doing in business? We don't have time to drag. We have to make the right decisions, and we have to move forward, because if we don't, we miss those windows of opportunity.
So Brad, how does this work around mindset coaching, emotional intelligence, and I want you to answer this from two different perspectives. How does it help us as individuals? How does it impact the world, number one? And number two, how does it help us as individuals leave our imprint on the world?
Imagine if we all had the self-awareness. You know, we were honest with ourselves. We knew ourselves. We made ourselves available to everyone else. What kind of impact would that have on our relationships? And really, that's where we're going first. How available can you be to yourself? How available can you be to other people? How can you impact every single relationship that you have in a positive way? You know, I have lots of relationships with people that have very different personalities than I do. Their personal relationships and professional relationships and so forth. You know, so as I know myself, I know them more. It's weird how that works out. You know, and then I'm able to navigate their own waters. I'm able to be proactive about that. I'm able to, if I've got someone that I'm talking to that is, you know, in a professional level that is seemingly very intense. You know, I mean, we're talking dominant personality, very intense, very dualistic in thinking, black and white. You know, this is right or wrong. There's no gray area. You know, we have to do business with people like that. You know, that's one personality type that I teach, and I'm bringing that up, that personality type, because it's one of the most difficult personality types to navigate. That their way of communicating, where they experience intimacy through conflict. So they're looking for the conflict.
Right.
If you are not that person, then how do you receive that?
Right.
Ryan, you mean to tell me that some people experience intimacy through conflict?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
what?
Ma'am.
You know, I think I know a couple of those.
I think you do.
I do. And I see, so while I understand that, I wasn't conscious of it until you just said it.
Right.
And brought it to the forefront of my mind, because one of the things I am really great at is connecting with people. And it doesn't matter. I have this amazing skills to
Natural.
connect with the absolute most difficult people in the world. I have
Right.
been able to, you know, break the wall down and communicate with them. But I have a cousin. I love him. I do. And I always tell him, if we're on the phone and he starts to get silent, I'm going, are you Facebook fighting? Like, that's all. Are you Facebook fighting? Stop it. I know that's what you're doing right now. And then I'm going, why is it that you are always let someone have it or you're Facebook fighting? But until you just said it, I didn't think about the fact that he experiences intimacy through conflict, Ryan.
Yeah, and you know, that's huge. I mean, I know you do independent, but you also do corporate training, right?
Yes.
And as a business owner, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good or feel good to me if I'm the employer and I'm watching this play out.
Right.
Okay, so you speak to that about your corporate training and how that works?
Yes, yeah. Let me add a part two to Colette's first. Okay, so I said, so this individual, this personality type experiences intimacy through conflict. Okay, here's the other thing: you're doing business with this individual. If you cannot step up to their level, if you do not have the confidence and self-worth and ability to communicate that self-awareness and mindfulness and your message and know your message, if you can't step up to that individual, they will never see you.
Wow.
They will never respect you. They will never actually literally see you. As soon as they walk away, you will be out of their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
It's an indication that if you can't step up to that, then you need somebody in your organization who can.
Exactly. And if you are not this dominant personality, maybe your genius is, maybe your genius is conflict resolution. Maybe you merge into other personalities and you can bring closure and reconciliation to difficult moments. Well, you know, that is a more passive individual that ebbs and flows in that. They're not going to be very conflict oriented. And so you need to have someone that is healthy in your organization, healthy in their self-awareness, so that they can step up to that individual and communicate effectively and productively. So that's how it changes your business side of it too. If you are that dominant personality, you have to have a self-awareness to be able to intentionally put in a gray area to navigate other people's personalities, to soften yourself. It's exhausting for that dominant personality, but you have to do that in order to have that connectivity in your professional relationships to close the deal, to, provide the service, it just goes on and on and on. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does.
It
does.
Yeah. Stuff. That's
right.
I don't know if I answered your question, Reggie.
No, well, yeah, you did. And again, I'm kind of like Colette. I didn't think about that as much in the workplace, although, I've seen it played out, but I didn't think about that. And Colette and I go over different personality traits when it comes to hiring. We're always going over different tools and strategies to use for our clients. But that's a whole nother conversation, Ryan, that we need to have. We have to tweak our tools, because that's a whole nother area that I did not flush out. And we like to think we qualify those people as troublemakers, but they're not trying to be that. That's just a part of who they are.
And so they have a space and a place inside of your organization, but which is why personality types are so important to me. But it's also the other part of the reason why I can connect with people that I connect with, because I understand personality types. So if you're a business owner, an aspiring business owner, if you're somebody who wants to be a leader, you should be studying personality types. The DISC assessment, the work that Jerry Clark has done is phenomenal around personality types. You can YouTube him, or you can listen. There's an interview I did with him for Realize Destiny Radio that will blow your mind from the beginning to the end of it. But if you understand personality types, you know where people fit, one, in your life, two, inside of your organization. And it helps you to also understand how to best use this person to get, one, what you need to get from them, but 2, help them get what they need. And
Right.
not their need based on what you want them to have, their need based on what they want to have.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That is really good.
Yeah. So Ryan, why did you decide to connect with Red Development Group?
Colette told me.
I know. I was in the back of my mind, your arm was twisted, but but now that you're connected, one thing that we really try to do is we try to make sure that we all win, like win. We want to know what it is that you guys need, and so we are so excited that you're a part of Red Development Group. And so, how do you feel now that you're part of like the team, the collaborators,
Yes.
people who are making it happen?
Yes. Oh, I love it. Let me tell you, I was unhealthy for a long part of my life. I mean, a long time in my life. And even as I started Pack Leader and built Pack Leader, I was unhealthy in the one specific sense that I didn't trust collaboration. I didn't.
Right.
I could do it. I could do it.
Right.
I could trust myself. I could rely on myself. I could do it myself. And then I was successful at it too. And so then when I tried to do 1812 solutions on my own, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It failed until I had a conversation with Brad.
Right.
And so what Brad has taught me in my own development, my own self-awareness into my personal development, so to speak, the function of it, is he's taught me the value of trusting that collaboration.
Right.
So what he broke my own walls down. He tore those things down. And then when he said, hey, we need to get on the phone with this woman, Colette, this is what she does, I said, okay.
Right.
So really, I didn't drag you, it was Brad.
No, I'm with you, Ryan. I know Colette pulls you over. But Colette asked you earlier about impact, and I'm glad you said that about collaborations, because a lot of entrepreneurs, we do think solo. We think that, we came up with the idea, we can do it, can't nobody do it better. But in order for you to really make an impact on the world, you have to go outside of yourself. So I'm glad you shared that, because a lot of people struggle with that. So you set some people free tonight with that.
Thank you. It certainly set me free, because I got to trust somebody.
Right.
I'd never trusted anybody before that.
Wow.
Much less a man.
Wow.
All the women in my life provided the value of teaching and the impact in me. My grandmother, my mother, my aunt, I valued them and respected them. My stepmother, and they were entrepreneurs too. And so I've watched that and I followed it, and I never had a male mentor, because I didn't trust that. And then Brad comes along and without even realizing it, he breaks all these walls down and gives me access to the belief that I can trust not just collaboration, but I can trust a guy that's going to know me and accept me and let me be free to be me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that I'm sorry. Go ahead. I think for female entrepreneurs specifically, that can also be a struggle of who do you trust and who do you collaborate with? Because there are a lot of sharks out there. And one reason we teach emotional intelligence is so that you understand, like, I'm an emotionally wired person. Everything that I experience the emotion first and then the logic. And so it's very important to be able to use your emotions for you. They're a tool for you, and assessing and discernment and application and execution and so many different things. And they set you free from not seeing the whole picture.
Yeah. Ryan, you said two very important things. Number one, you talked about there's a difference. There are some of us who start with emotion first and then logic, and vice versa, because I'm totally logic first and then emotion. And so understanding that when we're understanding personality types and things like that. But there's something you said that nobody's having a conversation about. And sometimes it makes me sad that we're not having this conversation, because I know for sure in conversations with other men that it is absolutely pertinent and necessary. And that is, as women, we talk, you hear a lot of talk around women can't get along with each other and things like that, which isn't the truth. The work has to be done, which is that emotional intelligence piece. So you make sure you're connecting with the right people, because if you connect with a lot of the wrong people that you don't want to connect with, then it will have you have that assumption that we can't connect, and it's not the truth. But nobody's talking about the fact that men aren't trusting men and connecting with them. We just assume that y'all good. Y'all boys, y'all hanging out, y'all having burgers and beers together, and it's not true in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about just that piece, not being able to connect with other men, and then the transition to why it's important that men learn to be able to connect with other men?
Yeah. Oh man. It's, you stand in front of a group of men and you look at them square in the eyes and you say, hey, we're all going to be vulnerable right now.
Right. My wife is calling. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you're right. You don't even have a phone on you right now. You're right.
Right.
And then unfortunately, it's not that we're hardwired that, to where we can't connect to that. There's, again, I talk about limiters and, all these things that, these false messages. Well, everybody's got them. I had them as a kid. Everybody has them to some degree. And so what I really want for men is for them to be able to, and just for women too, but for men, as we're talking about men, I want them to have space. I want them to have space and freedom and opportunity to be able to be available. Let's get rid of the vulnerable word. Okay. That terminology can be intimidating for a guy. So, hey, just show up. Okay. What does that mean?
Yes.
What does showing up mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Well, okay, you know what? Let me ask you something. Hey, the Cowboys lost on Sunday. How'd that make you feel? And they go, well, it made me mad. I was angry. Or they're, yes. There's a specific emotion there. And then you can grab a hold of that emotion, and now you start doing something with that emotion. But for men, typically, if you're doing something while you're cultivating that space, Brad talks about this a lot. We like to compete. We like to, the sports that cause us to stand side by side. When men are comfortable with each other, they're going to talk to each other standing side by side. That's the body language. When women are comfortable with each other, they're going to look at each other face to face. And so I want men to be able to say, hey, man, this is really who I am. And that's good. And my feelings, my emotions, they're tools that I wrap into my solutions, that I put into my linear thinking, that I put into my logical, solution provision, those kind of things, that. And then once they are able to kind of go through that cycle of this is what I felt, this is what I did with it, this is the benefit of it. Now you've created a new neural pathway in that man's head that says, I can trust that feeling.
Wow. So Ryan, what's the life cycle of your clients? It seems like I could have you forever,
Oh, well, you know what? I just got a text message from a pack leader client that I haven't seen in 8 years. So my drive is, and I'm driven to connect with individuals on a fundamental level. Not connect with your personality. I'm not connecting with what you're showing me. I'm connecting with who you are, because I see who you really are. And back to the men. Men don't believe on average that they are seen for truly who they really are.
That's interesting.
This conversation can go on forever, because, and I'm sure Colette has about 3 or 4 other questions, if not more. It's making me feel like you have to really be ready to be comfortable with who you are, because you're going to have to spend time with you.
Yes, man, that's good. That is really good. I am not, I am now. I'm better at it now. It's a work in progress. But I used to be so unhealthy to the point where I couldn't be in a room by myself for more than 5 minutes. And And you know what taught me how to do that? Was avoiding my stepfather. He forced me through avoidance of that kind of struggle and pain and violence that was unhealthy. He forced me how to deal with myself. I didn't want any help from him.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I didn't want any help from anybody. I wanted to internalize it and deal with it. And that started putting down some building blocks to that self-awareness foundation. It was completed well later in my life.
Yeah.
But there is a message that I want to communicate to people, and that is the truth of your life is the pain and the struggle and the suffering that you went through. That was the sharpening of who you are, the sharpening of who you're to be. You know, too many people just do not believe that they can actually proactively have the kind of life that they want to have, that they deserve. You know, and the only thing that's keeping them back, you know, that's holding them back from doing it, actually doing it, is how they see themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think that's so important, because especially right now where, you know, a lot of us are staying home because of the quarantine orders. But there's some of us who aren't. And I think part of, and there's some of us who aren't staying home. And I think, and there's some of us who are and want it to be over, who are frustrated, you know, in a sense, by those who aren't staying home.
Yeah.
But I think part of that has to do with not wanting to be in a space by myself, with myself, because then what that means is I have to start thinking about myself, by myself alone.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, that's the space where suicide happens.
Suicide and domestic abuse and
Yes.
all those things that are going on right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a really good point. You know, it's often we look at ourselves when we start going through the self-awareness process. One of the first things that we do is we see the negative in us. You know, okay, again, I use myself as an example all the time. It's not because I like to talk about myself. It's just you can't argue with it. So, you know, one of my greatest gifts, one of my greatest abilities is kind of a lot like what you were talking about, Colette, is kind of flexing and bending and shaping into any environment, connecting with people regardless, you know, of language, of culture, I'm a shapeshifter. That's what I am, you know. Well, that's a wonderful and amazing thing. But before I could take ownership over that, you know what I first saw?
What?
Was that I don't know how to be by myself. I don't know how to define myself. I've lost my self-definition because I've just became everyone else. Who am I?
Oh,
that was not fun.
Wow.
But man, the power and authority, oh my gosh. I tell people often, you know, you are often not who you think you are. You're often not who you see yourself to be, but more times than not, you have more power and authority than you think you have.
Right.
So let me ask this then, Ryan, because I know the people want this question to be asked. If I am the person who can't define, I don't know who I am because I am shape-shifting into everybody else. And I don't enjoy spending time alone. Like I can go to dinner and movies and all that kind of stuff with Colette, because Colette enjoys Colette. We have a good time. If it's Colette and Colette, it's guaranteed to be a good time. I'm just saying, right?
I believe it.
But not everybody is like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you had to give them 3 things, 3 to-dos, this is their homework, the 3 pieces of homework to start, what would those 3 things be?
Based off of the profile you just gave me?
Based off I can't stand to be alone with myself. I don't know who I am. I can always adopt and become who everybody else needs me to be. But I don't know who I need me to be in order to even become that.
Okay. So 3 things. First thing, get a journal. You need to have action. You need to have physical action to complete your neuro pathway. So, okay.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking, if I'm sitting by myself and I'm 5 minutes into it, and now I'm starting to think to myself, who am I? I don't know who I am. I don't like this about me. I don't like that about me. Human psychology says that you are going to gravitate towards the negativity before the positivity. Okay. So if you allow those thoughts to stay in your head and you just digest them, you let your mental metabolism just, do what it's going to do with it. Most people compartmentalize it. They put it in a box, put it in the corner, and then it, comes out, it rears its ugly head later on.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't get it out, okay, physically, then you will not process it outwardly. Okay. So for me, for example, I like to audibly communicate. I like to audibly process. I am feeling frustrated because this happened, that happened. I'm feeling joyful because this and that happened, and I move through it. It's a body thing. It's a energy thing. I experience the emotion. Well, even myself, if I don't get my journal and write down what is happening, then it only is half real in the positive light.
Okay. So journaling is important to get your mind to focus on the positive thing, as opposed to it's as opposed to defaulting to its normal setting of focusing on the negative.
You know how many people self-talk negative to them? They have negative self-talk. Yeah.
Right.
There's a personality profile that wakes up every single morning, and the first thing they experience is one voice that says, "You're not good enough."
Oh. Yeah.
So what I suggest doing is you get a journal, you define every single day, you pick 5 things that define who you are as a core, as who you are as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a wife, who you are. Define those 5 things. They're all positive. They're all life breathing. Okay. They have authority and power behind it. I am confident. I am a good mother. I am a great wife. I serve my husband. I serve my wife. I respect her. You're communicating these positive things, because while you're doing that, while you're writing it down, it is sloughing off the real estate that the negativity is taking up in your brain, and it is replacing it with what you are defining yourself to be. Every single day, do that. And then the second thing, that's this particular profile. The second thing is, in order for you to rest, okay, we all burn out. This particular profile burns out really bad because they lose their self-definition. They have no idea who they are, and then they're just spiraling. So in order for you to help anchor yourself back in, not the journal, you've got to do something else, unproductive.
Okay, say it again.
Okay. So the journal is one thing.
Yeah.
But then you're going to go do something else. And that's 2. Okay. You're going to do something else that is completely unproductive. Not just sitting there and not doing anything like a sloth. I mean, do something that doesn't contribute to your checklist, that doesn't build a connection, that doesn't work, quote unquote. It's not work. It is something that's not productive, because you have to have that space, that time where you're, again, physically doing something and you're not having that negative self-talk.
So you're saying binge watch a Netflix show?
Oh my
That's
gosh,
not
no.
necessarily what he said.
No. What?
Wait, no, I'm saying binge watch. I love that, but not to recover, not to rest.
Well, so then, and please forgive me. I don't understand, because I don't know what being unproductive is. So
I know.
I'm
talking to you, girl. I'm talking to you.
So give me an example of doing something unproductive.
Okay, those adult coloring books?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for defining that.
Thank you. Yeah. Listen, did you see how lost I was? And I don't get lost off it. You start talking about being unproductive, and I'm like, okay, what? What just happened? I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. An individual that struggles with that self-awareness, that struggles with, the profile you just mentioned, Colette, the ability to sit there in detail and color a picture that has all that detail in it for 30 minutes. You know what that does? You know what that does to your brain?
What?
It expands your margins of experience.
I am
So-
buying an adult coloring book today.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now it's
Yes.
considered productivity in my mind because the moment you started talking about expanding, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it
Yeah.
supposed to be unproductive?
Yeah. But
Okay,
here's
I'm
the
sorry.
kicker, though. Here's the kicker. This is the quote unquote downside of it. You have to be very intentional and set parameters for yourself. I said 30 minutes. Notice how I said 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Don't just have an undefined period of time. There's no boundaries and parameters and structure. You're doing something specifically and intentionally unproductive. If you sit there too long, what happens? You become
Because work is productive now.
now
Colette started it.
Colette's gonna turn it into work. Okay,
Yeah,
it's gonna turn
yeah.
into like a marketing piece. I mean, it's like something. But there are lots of people that will start to experience apathy and laziness,
Yeah.
and they'll root into that unproductive activity. So we're talking about self-care. Self-care is a very intentional balance that you find between doing something that taps into your stress mode just enough to correct your emotional course, to correct your perspective.
Mm.
Man,
That's
that's
good.
good, Ryan. That's
real good.
Good juicy stuff. Okay, what's the last one?
What do you want to know?
No, you gave us two. Or was that
Oh,
three?
yes, the third one. Yes. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. You see, I get off track myself. Thank you. Where's Brad?
Look, Brad is not on a watch party, right? We both know that.
Okay, here's the third one. Yeah, great.
We'll
Here's the
replay
third one. So we're talking about doing something unproductive, all right, to rest, to recover. Okay, we're talking about writing in your journal, the physical action to connect with the internal, the intra-personal, emotional, and mental, gear that's kicking away or clicking away. All right. Here's the other thing. In your relationships, this particular profile, they are only listening to people just enough to adapt and change into who the person is.
Mm-hmm.
Because underneath that, they want to form, they want to change themselves, they want to shape shift because they have a worth, a value that they are trying to put across. They're trying to put out and project. And often that comes from an insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So an individual who cannot sit down and do something unproductive, be present, okay, know themselves. Here's the third one, and listen to people completely.
Mm-hmm.
There are two stages of when sound waves leave a person's mouth into your ears. You hear them, which is the internal digestion of that, is that it comes into your head and now your brain starts, doing something with it. But then there's listening. And listening is what your body language does, is what your eyes do. It's what your micro expressions do. It's you communicating empathy and authenticity in the present to allow the other individual to be themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So stop trying to shape yourself into people. Okay, stop giving yourself away. Every single day, practice knowing who you are, defining who you are. Learn how to do something unproductive for a short period of time and be present in your relationships to completely listen to people.
That last one was marriage communication 101. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We went from entrepreneurship to marriage. Okay. Just that fast, the shift.
It's all connected to me.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
Ryan, this has been so good. And we could talk to you forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to talk to me forever, Lord, okay?
At some point, we're going to have to go get Brad.
But Colette, can he share how to get in contact with 1812?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely. We do really well with smoke signals. Okay, so smoke signals. All right. Okay. All right. You got a flashlight out the window, and you just click it a couple of times.
Right. Morse code.
Yeah.
Latin.
Oh, what's hilarious is 16 years of building and managing Pack Leader. I never had a website. I didn't do anything on my Facebook page. I built all of it on referrals and relationships and connectivity. My clients believe in the message, and they essentially go out and just speak my message for me. That is not the world we live in right now.
No.
That is not. We have to use the human conditions need for connectivity, for cohesion, for collaboration. We have to weave that into every available technological resource that we have, media resource we have. We have to. It's not comfortable for me. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I make Brad do it. but we have to do that. So to answer your question, all right, LinkedIn, go to our LinkedIn pages, all right? Go to our website, 1812.solutions. There is no .com, just .solutions. Go to our, you can email us, email us at brad@1812.solutions, ryan@1812.solutions. My phone number, I think my phone number is on my pack leader page. So get my phone number, text me, call me. I don't care. You need help. I want to help you. So
that's good. That's good. By you saying that you've never really advertised or did any major marketing, that just tells me that you are operating in your authentic self. And to me, I feel like that's so critical right now in this day and time. So that's good.
Yes.
Thank you. Brad and I were on a networking meeting call, Zoom call this morning, and I was talking a little bit on empathy, the empathetic connection right now. Empathy is huge, and before COVID-19, we got to experience empathy in a very different way, in a more naturally hardwired way as humans. Well, now in the group this morning, I was saying you need to be able to connect empathetically via Zoom. So you need to think about, hey, where's your camera? Can I only see, your chin up? Yeah. For me, my wife did this the other day. I was recording some videos, some little short videos, and she was like, Ryan, you talk with your hands so much, they need to see your hands. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So it's utilizing technology, utilizing your tools and resources in ways that you didn't think you could before, to still weave that human connection in, especially now with what we've got going on.
Yes.
I get it.
Ryan, this has been so good. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all connect with Ryan and 1812 Solutions on LinkedIn. We'll be back here next week with a new special Red champion that we'll be spotlighting. So this has been Red Development Group with Colette Portis
and Reggie.